Hey everyone, CoolKid here, and welcome back to Reading Your Hot Takes. For those who don't know, every month I sit down and read a handful of hot takes submitted in the comments of the prior video. As always, if you want to submit a hot take for the next video, feel free to reply to the pinned comment down below. Like last time, we're joined by a special guest host for today's episode. Sabuuchi, who you're probably aware of for reasons I can't say in the first 2 minutes of a YouTube video, joins us for today's episode. Sab, your mic is hot, welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm Sabuuchi. I'm a Mesa main. I once played Warframe using my male appendage and farmed various primes before defecating myself.
Splendid.
Hello.
Alright, as you can see we have I pick only the best of guests for these intellectually complex Warframe discussions. Alright, I'll just go ahead and send you the first one, and then I'll read this out, and then we'll talk about it. This one's very long, I'm gonna be honest with you, this is the longest take of this episode.
I read the first line, and I already want to die.
Alright, I'll go ahead and read this for the audience. My hot take, Scarlet Spear was a much better event than people give it credit for, and Squadlink didn't deserve to die alongside it. For more detail, I think the thing that really marred the event was the way that both the community and DE reacted to its run. The community acted like we hadn't seen super buggy features launched before, and DE had a knee-jerk reaction to the entirely expected eventuality of the community optimizing the event with heavy-handed and targeted nerfs. It also didn't help that many people complained about actually needing to use teamwork. Despite the fact that if you actually did what the event wanted and communicated with your team and worked together, it made the missions go extremely smoothly and quickly. Unironically, I think when it wasn't bugging out, Scarlet Spear was one of the most fun events DE ever released, and it had some of my fondest memories of Warframe period, and I say this as someone who's been playing since 2015. It's a shame that because of the 9 nuclear fallout from the event, we will likely never see Squadlink or an event like Scarlet Spear again, especially as Squadlink had enormous potential for game modes like the Purita Rebellion. Even if Squadlink will never return, at the very least, I would like to see DE start pushing events more towards proper teamwork and communication being heavily encouraged. It would be a good time with how they're trying to emphasize clans more recently, as those changes would make it easier, but I don't know if they ever will thanks to what happened during Scarlet Spear. P.S. I wouldn't be surprised if Scarlet Spear is part of the reason Trial/Raids or something like them never returned, as Scarlet Spear was the most teamwork-demanding thing in the game after the removal of raids, and DE might genuinely be afraid to try something along those lines again. I want to start by saying, shortening Scarlet Spear as SS is something I'm just not going to read.
Please don't call it SS. Please do not abbreviate that.
Please do not call it SS.
It's like abbreviating corrosive projection. We just don't do that.
Yeah, that's not the best plan. So I think it's good to start the episode with some Scarlet Spear historical revisionism. This person might, genuinely believe this. Because, I mean, Sab, you've been playing for a long time, so I don't know how much you grinded Scarlet Spear, but when that event was running, I genuinely had nothing but time. I think I have like 550,000 points in that event on my account. I played a lot of Scarlet Spear.
You're a stronger man than I.
I think I can say from first-hand experience, that event was not very good.
Yeah.
And it's not even just, because like this person mentions that it's like, the community acted like we hadn't seen buggy launches before, which doesn't really excuse it, but I get what they're going at. But also the knee-jerk reaction causing targeted nerfs. That's just kind of part of Scarlet Spear's legacy, I think, because the event itself I just don't think was very well structured.
I do agree that Squadlink did not deserve to die. Whenever I shit on it, everyone likes to bring up Squadlink and this, that, and the other, but I'm with you. Squadlink was my most sought-after feature, and I am still in that boat. I want Squadlink to come back.
Yeah, I think it was a really cool idea, though I'll admit that I honestly don't know, at the end of the day, if a huge part of Scarlet Spear was the actual game modes, because I'll admit, I feel like the Murex missions and the Condrix missions weren't super, they weren't individually super engaging, in my opinion. I spent a lot of time doing both of them by myself, and I mean, I did just fine. Maybe I just became numb to it after all the time I spent doing them. But I think that, I wonder how much of it was gimped by the reward structure, because you might remember how it worked with, you only, there was a bonus if the flotilla finished and got to 100 Murexes, but there was a limit on how much you could contribute. So people would join when a flotilla was new, reach their limit, and then leave, and you'd find a bunch of flotillas that were near the end of their completion that nobody was in, because nobody could continue to contribute to the bonus anymore. So I spent a lot of time going to these flotillas that were basically unfinished and just completing them by myself because they weren't ever going to get done otherwise. I think I still have screenshots of this. I might have to look for them for the video, where I'm receiving codes from myself in the Murex mission, from the Condrix mission I had played 30 minutes ago because nobody else was contributing.
Yeah, there was just not much incentive to run the Railjack missions at the time, so it was just a big lineup of everyone playing the on-foot gameplay and just sitting and waiting. That's what I remember. It was just a lot of nothing the first 2 days because no one really wanted to play the new Railjack stuff.
Yeah, that was a big part of it as well, was that people would just run the Condrix missions and then not really ever bother with the Murex side of it. Which, I mean, to be fair, I think a lot of people also just didn't really have Railjacks that were up to par because it was so much newer at the time. But I don't know. I remember back then my strategy was just to abuse Gara's ability to protect the squad link or the op link or whatever the fuck when you were defending it. And that was kind of my approach. But yeah, like what, Limbo got nerfed. I think this was the update that nerfed all defense objective healing. I think was a Scarlet Spear nerf.
All defense objective healing.
Venari, I remember Venari getting nerfed and for a time and not being able to heal defense objectives, which they said was a bug, even though it was in her ability tips. So that was cool.
Revisionism during the update was crazy.
Yeah.
Another thing that it just sort of got me was, like, the mention of, like, communicating with your teammates. Like, yeah, you can do that on foot, and you can do that on any mission, but from what I remember, you couldn't even communicate with the in-air squad, the Railjack squad. I don't remember, like, any sort of actual communication.
Yeah, and also, like, kind of, in regards to that, this is, I think, kind of related. The way this thing did squad link, I felt like was kind of not living up to the vision that was given to us at TennoCon, because you weren't really, like, directly helping a squad. As I understand it, the mechanic was when you got a ground team code, it was basically put in, like, a flotilla bank, and then people in the Murex missions would draw from that bank. So it wasn't like you were directly contributing, like it was a one-to-one line to their mission. More so that you were contributing to, like, a group resource that they were drawing from. So it was like, is there some teamwork between the two teams? I mean, yes, but maybe it's just a me thing. I felt like it was kind of shallow. Like, people on the ground team do the thing so that people in the Railjack team can do the thing. But there isn't a lot of, like, direct collaboration across the two missions.
Yeah, it's sort of what I meant. There was, like, no real connection for them. It was just, again, like, sitting and waiting. The mention of clans being, like, the focus now is also kind of comedic, because it's just, the recent clan events have been basically do a mission, fill up a bar. I don't know where they're coming from with, like, clan focus and collaborating right now, when it just boils down to do the mission and you'll get, like, an ephemera down the line.
Yeah, my guess is about, I think it was in Shadowgraph that they added the, like, track when you play with your clanmates. There's, like, a reward track for that now. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about. But with, in terms of events, like, what was the last event that even really rewarded you for being in a clan outside of, like, a cosmetic reward? I can't even think of one. Because they haven't done, like, global leaderboards in a while, I don't think.
I'd actually have to check the wiki for, like, the most recent tack alerts or events or something.
The last one I remember, where I remember people caring about that, was Hostile Mergers, I think.
That was was that Ambulus? No, that wasn't Ambulus.
Hostile Mergers was Disruption.
Disruption.
I remember people caring about that because of maybe you remember the Limbo cheese, where you could switch teleport demolishers off the map?
Mm-hmm.
And they had to take away a bunch of leaderboard scores because they were massively inflated. You know, I wonder what it'd be like if they reran that event today with how optimized Disruption has become.
Honestly, this might be a hot take in and of itself, but I think Orphix Venom was a little bit more, like, hands-on than Scarlet Spear. I think I'm in the minority that actually enjoyed Orphix Venom, though.
You know, that's fair. I think Orphix Venom was a lot of fun. I'll admit, I don't love the Orphix game mode that, like...
The game mode can kick rocks. I liked the operation.
Yeah, the operation was fun, and it was the update that introduced my favorite Warframe, even though I know you have your own opinions about Lavos.
Kill yourself. Sorry, that kind of slipped out.
You know, hold on. How long has this been, Riff? We've been going for about 10 minutes, okay? We're outside the demonetization range. I can leave that in. Okay.
Oh, no.
Also, at the bottom where it says, I wouldn't be surprised if Scarlet Spear is part of the reason that trials are raised. Well, they specifically said I wouldn't be surprised if SS is the reason, but I don't think that's related. that Trials and Raids never returned. Trials and Raids were way more teamwork involved than Scarlet Spear, and as far as Pablo explained, they were removed because nobody played them and they took a huge amount of effort to maintain. I don't think the teamwork was necessarily the reason they got whacked, so much as that, like, they were just so niche, if that makes sense.
That, and I play a lot of pubs. A lot of people seem to think that I just stick to my own little clique and play with them. No, I pub a lot of my gameplay. I don't really go in with a lot of, like, pre-made setups. I have seen the average Warframe player. It's like watching Discovery Channel, watching the monkeys fling feces at each other. These motherfuckers can't walk a straight line, and you want them to do puzzles? No, we don't need raids. We don't need trials. We're good.
I feel you there. And, like, have you read Pablo's thread on Twitter about why raids aren't returning or why he doesn't like the idea of them being re-implemented?
Yeah, the whole raids are AIDS comment.
Yeah, because I think that
most of a fraction of players actually interacted with them to begin with.
Yeah, and I think his rationale as well with the, like, if we want actually difficult content like raids, then we have to start caring about balance, and a lot of people would, you know, not, like, that would be a very unpopular decision, I think is also a fair stance. But yeah, like, I mentioned this a lot before, but I think that whenever I talk about the topic of raids, I always draw the comparison to Destiny, because raids are a big part of that game. Last I had heard, it was like only 1 in 4 Destiny players had ever even completed a raid. Like, not even raids regularly, like done a raid ever. I don't know what those numbers will look like now with the final update, of course, but I don't know if you've ever suffered the experience, I guess in any game, of like, but Destiny I think is especially like this because you only have 6 people. Trying to, like, LFG a raid is, like, legitimately a form of torture. I'm convinced that's the kind of thing that, like, the CIA could use to break a terrorist. Those people in pubs range from, like, so much better than you that they're doing the raid without you, to I think that I'd find a better teammate in a petri dish. It's rough shit. And Warframe, I think, would just have the exact same problem of making content that's inaccessible to people, because your options are to have 7 friends that play the game, or try to, you know, intermingle with the Neanderthals on LFG. I don't think either are great options.
Yeah, I've been playing MMOs for a good maybe 23, 24 years of my life, and just trying to get a group of people, even with half of the group, you know, just those fill-in slots is actually a nightmare. And having to associate with some people in this community, like, I love the Warframe community, but yeah, there is definitely a reason why we are never getting raids, and you are part of it. One of my recent videos is under scrutiny right now. It was mentioned on Twitter a couple days ago about Hildren. Hildren is once again in the spotlight for her Balefire, no line of sight checks. Zata's basically doubling her range. You don't need to do anything, you just middle click and the entire room melts, and the whole balance thing is now coming into question again. And one of my older videos, like maybe 5 months ago, is now just getting fucking slammed with comments like I'm the fucking reason this conversation's being brought up again. It's like, this game is a power fantasy game, and you can have your power, but you should have to work for it. Like, not looking at anything and things just dying, like, it needs to be toned back. And if we're gonna have raids, there needs to be some sort of balance. On Reddit, someone, of course, was being disingenuous with their argument and brought up the Pablo tweet where he said, balance? What balance? Even though after he said that, he was talking about Arcane Persistence, which then got balanced, like, a week later before its release. Like, there is obviously balance on the mind, and we need that balance.
Yeah, especially in terms of, I think that when the Hildren discussion came up, Pablo had mentioned specifically, like, why they nerf things, and I think the 2 reasons that he had cited that Hildren might be looked at for was, I'd have to find the tweet specifically, so I might be wrong about this, but I think it was, like, disrupting other players' experience and automating play are the 2 things that they think that, like, they could see the argument that she's moving in that direction. I will say, though, that thread was a little weird, because Pablo said that they don't nerf things for consistency when someone asked about removing the line of sight check from Sirius and Orion's 4, which, just as a side note, with a base 26 meters of range, that's a horrible idea unless they were to nerf its range, I think. But someone asked then, why did they nerf concentrated arrow to make it a line of sight check? And I think that's a completely fair question because it required a headshot to trigger.
Yeah, you have to actually aim.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll admit that, like, as a concentrated arrow enjoyer, I'm a little bit upset about how they did that augment, because they buffed it kind of, and then they took away its ability to ignore line of sight, which made its huge range a lot less important. And the base status chance is 20%. Like, it being able to proc status effects on the explosion doesn't help unless you... I think my Avara has 5 Tau Forged primary status chance shards just to make it work. It's so grim.
I think we got a little bit off track, back to the Scarlet Spear thing. Yeah, I don't like this revisionism. Yes, the Oppling system shouldn't have been shipped to die, but no, this event was booty cheeks.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how much of it was like the reward structure. I mean, I think it was a combination of everything. The reward structure, the nerfs, and even just the missions. Like, the missions for Scarlet Spear, from what I remember, the Condrixes were just like, shoot the thing when it opened, and then I think... I can't remember if it spawned resonators like Orphixes did that you had to break. Or no, it was a group of enemies you had to kill, I think, to make it open again. And then with the Railjacks, it was literally just board the Murex, place the Oplink, and defend it for a bit. I don't know. I don't think the gameplay was super engaging or anything. And like I said, the reward structure and all the nerfs that happened and all that stuff just made the event, like, as a whole, right, that period of Warframe history was kind of rough. But I even think removed from the nerfs, I don't know. I just don't think it was that fun. I just spent a shit ton of time grinding it because it was the first time they ever did an arcane store, and I never knew if it would come back.
I think I did maybe 10 missions in total on both ends, and then I just said, I'm gonna go play the other content. This is awful. Just had a thought and I completely lost it. Holy shit. Cut this out, cut this out.
Nope, this is staying in. This is staying in. My hot take is that Rhino is an actively harmful frame to suggest to new players, and I always firmly discourage everyone from farming him early on. He should be moved later into the star chart to prevent new players from picking up the unkillable damage boost frame before getting into the main quest. My idea here is to switch him with Trinity, bringing her to Venus and him to Pluto to lock behind Ambulus. This way, we not only move one of the least interesting and strongest frames behind a time gate, but we also get Trinity, an undeservedly overlooked co-op frame into the early game, which would teach players early on about the benefits of how helping others helps you.
I don't know. I kind of get it, like, in a sense. So I have been asking for Trinity to be a starter frame for a while. It's still funny to me that Warframe is a 4-player co-op game that you and 3 of your homies can co-play at the same time. But that means one of you, at least one of you, is going to be doubled up on a frame because there are only 3 starters. So Trinity as a starter would make sense. I disagree with removing Rhino because I think Rhino is actually a healthy way to teach a player different mechanics. You get your sort of pseudo-gating by using Iron Skin, teaches you that early on. He teaches you how to be a helpful team member by buffering damage, and he has crowd control. He does nothing incredibly well. Like, he's not broken in any of those aspects, but he's just very solid all around and teaches you different playstyles. You can use him, like, as a caster. You can do damage with your stomp. You can do your CC. You can be a weapons platform. You can survive. I think he's a healthy starter.
Yeah, I think that Rhino... I talked about this in my Kome video from, I don't know, 1978 or whenever that came out, but that I think that a big part of what makes Rhino such a good early game frame is that all of his abilities are simple enough that they're immediately useful, but complicated enough that as you learn more about the game, you kind of continually update your understanding of what makes Rhino strong, and he's helpful for you throughout your entire journey, because as you learn more about, like to start, you'll use Iron Skin kind of for what it is, you'll maybe build into power strength, and then you'll learn, oh, well, it scales with your armor, so maybe I'll build into armor, maybe I'll use the augment, and then you'll learn, oh, well, I can use Jade Light Eximus beams and take advantage of its damage absorption mechanic. Like, it's a fundamentally simple ability of just you have an extra health bar that prevents stats effects while it's on, but as you learn more about how the game works and how it works, he progresses, I think, pretty naturally with how you learn about the game. My hang-up with this, though, when it comes to moving Trinity to the beginning, personally, I think she's too boring. I think that if a new player got her as their first ever frame, they'd have a really weird experience of what the average Warframe kit looks like, because a lot of what Trinity does is just pressing her 2 and her 4, and then, like, having her 3 active. I previously thought that Oberon would be a good starter, but honestly, post-rework, I think he might be too good for that, or maybe at least too involved.
Yeah. That's what I think I said in my original hot take video, where I would like Oberon as a starter. But I'm just gonna say it. I think his passive needs a nerf. Like, it's teetering Mesmer Skin levels of bullshittery. It's not quite there, but as a new like as a starter frame, that'd be a little too strong. But I don't think, maybe that's just a preference. I love playing my supporter frames. Sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and let other people do the work while I just sort of hang on the sidelines. Some people are into that playstyle. If they made it abundantly clear that that was the type of playstyle she offers, then I think it could work, but I do get that.
I also think for me, there's also the tricky thing of so there are several quests you have to do by yourself, and Trinity isn't particularly well suited for being by herself unless your objective is like not dying ever. So I think that if you were to get thrown into like Heart of Deimos, which isn't a co-op quest, I don't think Vox Solaris is for weirdly large chunks of it, considering it's just a bunch of bounties. You would kind of just be stuck with this frame that is like, okay, I press the 3 and the 4 and the 2 sometimes, and I feel like it wouldn't be as engaging if that's like your only option and you can't be with other people. Like if you are with other people, I think Trinity can be fairly engaging because you get to babysit your idiot teammates, you know, which is the true support experience. But I think if you're in those situations where the game makes you just sit there by yourself and you haven't unlocked someone who's like a little bit more engaging to play when you're alone, I think that she would get kind of boring for people. That's just my opinion, though.
No, I get that. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, moving Rhino, though, I think is kind of wild. I think he's a very well-positioned Warframe compared to some of the other early game ones. Like, I have a whole video about how I think Kome should not have been put at the start of the game.
Oh man, the number of times I hear that stupid argument of Kome is meant to be a starter, like an early frame for you to get, because this, that, and the other, and it's just, oh, please, shut up. No one on, like, normal path star chart is priming shit, nor do they even have the mods at that point.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like they designed Kome around, like, high-level play with, like, priming and stuff like that, and, you know, being in long missions, and then they decided to position her as, like, one of the first frames you can obtain, and it's like, new players aren't going to sit in a survival for an hour to accumulate decrees. They actually probably shouldn't be, because what they should be doing is finishing the star chart. So this huge element of what gives her value is not going to be clear to them. They're not going to know what her status effects do. They don't have access to mods to take advantage of them. I saw a lot of comments on the video I made about this saying like, oh, well, new players will just, you know, use the 1 and the 4 for damage, and then they'll worry about the status effects later. And my thought process was like, does that really fix the problem, though? Like, the problem of them not understanding the value of those status effects isn't really solved here. Because some people were like, oh, well, it's like a tutorial for the status effects. And I'm like, what, a guy gets like 18 different status effects and explodes? I don't think they know
what the status is doing. You just don't know what it's doing. Like, if anything, I'm gonna fucking hate myself for saying this, but I think Lavos would be a better tutorial for, like, a status effect.
Honestly, yeah. Though, then, of course...
Chroma.
Yeah, the new player will have to cope with Dance Dance Revolution on their keyboard. I think, honestly, for me, on my keyboard, it's not too bad. When I played the game on Steam Deck, I feel bad for console players that play Lavos, because, you know, on PC, I can still, like, move and jump and do all that kind of thing, but on a controller, when you cast an ability, your face buttons become your ability buttons, so you can't, like, jump or reload or anything while you're infusing, which is really cancer.
Playing it on my Switch 2 recently, it's like learning how to walk again. It's been an experience.
Fair enough. Okay, I guess back with this take. I don't know. I feel like Rhino is fine. Moving Trinity earlier, like I said, me personally, I think that I feel like she'd be too boring for people, but I do think we should have a support earlier. The problem is my vote would have previously gone to Oberon. I don't really know who we would do it with now. Because, like, I guess Citrine is technically an early game frame, but only if that player really likes mirror defense.
Yeah, also having to be, MR3 and having to farm that shit at that rank, kind of rough.
Yeah, especially with it being a defense game mode where you can't heal the objective unless you pick up the glyphs. You can't really rely on that. I think that, they moved Frost to Mars, I think? So I guess he's available early enough to help out with that now.
Bobbin can be gotten day 1. Like, you do your first 2 Nightwave things, you get 150 creds. That's enough for all of the Bobbin pieces and the Nightane.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I didn't even think about that.
I did that on my modless run, like, 2 years ago.
That makes sense. Yeah, I completely forgot that Vauban was even, like, technically available from the beginning. I guess there's also, like, the Clan Tech Warframes. It's like, Banshee? Yeah. I think it's Banshee, Volt, Zephyr, and then I think Neja and Wukong are in Clan Tech now, too. Though I would actively discourage new players from getting Wukong.
Or Banshee too. Like, I am Banshee's like one of her biggest shooters. I would not tell a new player to get Banshee.
Yeah, unless they like really enjoy the experience of being revived by their teammates.
Maybe they're into that.
Yeah, this is why we need to make Trinity a starter so they can
Exactly, to scrape the Banshees off the ground.
You know, maybe this guy's right, because you can't scrape a Rhino off the ground as easily, because, you know, he's able to survive. Shit, maybe this guy is actually, like, God's strongest Trinity main, and he wants to feel like he's contributing again. Because, I mean, we really haven't had, like, supports haven't felt necessary since, like, Void Keys were still a thing. Maybe that's just me, but I remember watching, like, videos about, like, very setups where like every single person in the squad had a role. Like Trinities would be there to EV, and you know, you'd have your Saren there to kill the entire map and things like that. It's like maybe this guy's just like a jaded Trinity who's upset that he hasn't done anything for his teammates in the last, you know, half decade. Okay, I don't remember saving this one. Okay, I guess I'll just read this out. Hot take, Tostitos are the best chips of all time, and you cannot convince me otherwise.
Takis are the best. This motherfucker has not tried the Dragon Chili Takis.
I just have to, when this guy says Tostitos, does he mean like the plain tortilla chips?
If so, that's like saying Lay's are your favorite potato chip.
Yeah, like, I don't know. That's very,
It's like white bread.
Yeah, it's very vanilla. Like, don't get me wrong. I like tortilla chips, but, like, plain? I don't know. That's like, psychopath behavior. If you eat, like, an entire bag of them without anything. Like, if you have no salsa or anything, I think that's kind of fucked up. That's kind of dark.
I'm at the point in my life where I am just getting the Good and Gather brand from Target because I am not spending, like, $5.50 on a bag of Tostitos. No, thank you.
I don't blame you for that. I am a hot Cheetos enjoyer myself. That's my my favorite chip. Well, I don't know how much there is to discuss other than, I mean, I can see this guy's handle in the screenshot, so I'm banning him from my channel, that's for sure.
Good.
Anything else you want to say about this
Deserved. one? No, that's it.
Hot take, gifting should be disabled by default. I am so tired of seeing streamers and content creators play the game for the first time only to be showered with gifts and wonder where all the content went. It leaves a bad impression when new players are under the assumption that the new player experience is just giving people each other the best gear. If there's nothing to grind for, there is no game. Honestly, after watching Moist Critical first play the game, I actually think I agree with this.
I do to an extent, because someone will just ask to turn it on, then they'll turn it on, and then it just happens anyway. But it does get a little upsetting when you see large streamers start to play and they just get everything handed to them and then they never come back. At least Charlie still dips into the game now and again and plays and farms shit up.
But yeah, like, because I remember with when Charlie was first streaming the game, and I would occasionally tune in and watch, you would have people like trading him maxed primed mods and shit, and it's like, well, no amount of gift disabling would fix this, and even if we did, he'd still just turn it off if he's, you know, going to these lengths. But I think that it might be good to, like, have some kind of, I don't know, some kind of stopgap for it, because I do see a lot of new players, especially from, like, the bigger streamer space, like back when Warframe was, like, poaching Destiny creators when 1999 came out or whatever, that it's like, yeah, we're just going to shower this person with, like, every item they could possibly want, and then they just don't play the game again after, like, a week, because once you're done with the story, there's nothing else to do, which kind of sucks.
Yeah, we play the game a little bit differently. We farm up our gear to get new gear, to make that gear as min-max as possible, to farm more gear in the future, while a lot of people are just here for the ride to get to the newest part of the story and then wait for the next.
Yeah. I guess it kind of depends on that divide of, like, this is kind of cringe to say, I guess, but, like, being a more hardcore, I say with air quotes, Warframe player, you know, what are the top 1% of Warframe players?
Ooh, the top 1%.
Yeah, the level cappers.
I'm for this change, though. I don't think it would change much, but it would probably, like, shift that around a little bit. It probably would help a little bit.
Yeah, I think at the very least it might be good if there was like a, maybe instead of just like turning gifts off and then like never having that change, maybe having like a period of time where they're off by default for like a few days to a week, and then the player is given a prompt asking them if they want to enable them.
Yeah, that's good. Because then it would remind them, hey, there is gifting in this game. Would you like that?
Yeah, because they do something similar with the damage numbers now, where I believe once you hit, is it 1,000 damage for the first time? It might be higher than that, I'd have to look. But you're given a pop-up.
The first time I pulled the trigger after that change happened, it immediately popped up for me.
You know, fair enough. Yeah, I remember I had a friend DM me, like, what the hell is this? Because they hadn't really been keeping up with the game that much, but go figure, they rejoined because they saw Foley and wanted her for reasons that had nothing to do with her kit. And they were like, what the hell is this pop-up? And
It's
like,
always nice to see another BBW warrior.
yeah, I just remember I just saw that pop up and they had Foley, and I was like, if you have Foley and you are seeing this pop up for the first time, I know you bought her, and I know why. Yeah, I don't know. I think that I overall agree with this, especially after the seeing Charlie play through the games. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
No, that was basically it. I agree.
Hollvania needs some more verticality. Being limited to between the buildings feels terrible in my opinion. The whole game we're flying around like crazy, and suddenly we're trapped to the ground, constantly banging our heads on the roof. I actually mostly agree with this. I thought it was really weird that Hollvania has like an invisible ceiling.
Keep forgetting about that too, yeah. There's also not many units that, like, you can tell that they want snipers to be perched, but their AI just does not allow it. They'll just jump down anyway. I feel like having more rooted units, maybe some turrets up on roofs where you have to, like, jump up to deal with them would be cool. Maybe if, you know, 50% of the time, even in a Scaldra mission, you weren't underground fighting tech rot, that would also be nice.
Yeah, especially if you are trying to complete a Kill Scaldra challenge and you load into survival and the second room is just pouring with the tech rot enemies.
You know, Scaldra missions are just tech rot missions featuring the Scaldra, featuring the Skull's Parasite unit.
Do you remember when they said that they had reduced the odds of tech rot missions appearing in Scaldra missions? It's like, yeah,
that was a lie.
That was a psyop. That never happened.
Yeah, no, that was a lie.
Yeah, I honestly, because you mentioned the sniper thing as well, I kind of wonder if maybe that's why the Harbinger enemies are like the balloons. I wonder if they were just like not able to get the AI to work with a normal sniper enemy, so they just made it a balloon, so just stay in one elevated location.
Yeah. The only time I feel incentivized to jump up onto a roof and actually look around is when I need to hunt down the MacGuffins to rank up the Hex.
Yeah, Hollvania's lack of verticality is especially weird to me because there are times where I think it's just like immersion breaking levels of not making sense. Like when you're fighting the tank and you have to destroy the Therasite barricade, why don't I just go over it? Like, there's no logical reason I'm not able to do this. Yeah, I agree with this. I think that I think Hollvania's street element of it being like the street combat was really fun and really interesting. You know, when you're actually there and not in the underground mall sections. But the lack of, like, there's some areas you can climb on, and there are certain tiles that are better about it than others, I guess. Like, I think the zoo has an alright amount of verticality with, like, enemies being in the actual enclosures versus, like, the elevated areas and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, for a city tile set in a game like Warframe, it's really weird that we're not climbing on things very much.
Or having more inside combat, like if inside of buildings other than, you know, the underground mall.
Yeah, not many tiles even let you enter buildings, and I don't even think enemies will be in there, like, the vast majority of the time. I know that there's, like, there's a Captura scene with one of them. I think it's the winter one, where there's, like, a building with, like, a window that's blown out or something. And it's like, yeah, you can enter there, but I don't even think enemies spawn in there. It's almost like the mall is, like, the interior sections of the tile set, functionally, and the other buildings are just kind of, like, there for decoration. Especially, I don't know if you've looked through the windows of the buildings in Hollvania. The, like, 2D card or whatever they use for them is, it doesn't look very good if you get close to it, I'm not gonna lie. It's something that kind of, like, when I first noticed it, it's like, huh, that's weird.
You know, I actually haven't. I did an entire, diet weird and obscure video on Hollvania, I'm sorry.
I remember because of the waffle with the fucking smoke alarm beep in it.
And I never actually looked in the buildings like that. I never really noticed. I do need to check that then.
Yeah, I think there was one. Dude, I might have a screenshot of this somewhere. If not, I might be able to just go get it for this video. But I'm pretty sure I looked in one room and all I could see was like a door and a single chair. And I was like, dude, every Hollvanian building got the cuck chair. There's no fucking way.
I mean, granted, you're not really going to be eye-fucking every building in the middle of combat. They don't expect you to do that.
I mean, yeah. It's not like I don't get it that like they would you know leave that as something that's a little lower effort, I guess. But when you notice it, it's like, huh, that's strange. My hot take is, while a lot of the older tile sets, especially Deimos, can be really twisted and hard to move around, I really like the process of learning the tile sets and all the shortcuts in them. In the more modern tile sets, it is so easy to navigate that you barely have to look at your surroundings. This has the side effect of making it harder to appreciate each tile set in mission. While I don't think every tile set in the future should be as twisted as Deimos, some harder to navigate tile sets would be nice to see in the future. I also think that the inclusion of parkour-based rooms that are difficult to get through, and you would have to use all of your movement options to get through, would be fun. While certain frames like Wukong would trivialize this, it would be difficult for most of the cast, so I don't think it's a fair counter-argument. I guess I have to question with what this, because when they say Deimos, I'm guessing they mean the older derelicts, yeah.
Yeah.
But I wonder, because, like, there's layers to this, right? Like, difficult to navigate, like, the derelict. I'm fine with that, even if it can be kind of annoying. Difficult to navigate, like, Eris? Then now we're crossing a line. Now I'm not having fun anymore.
Yeah. I think we should just delete Europa and Eris. That's my hot take. Those tile sets feel like ass to travel in. No matter how many times they fix the sticky corners bug, I'm still getting, like, stuck on everything.
Yeah, I think Eris is especially a huge pain in the ass. Like, there's this one room on Eris that's huge, and the only way out of it half the time is a staircase off in the corner that goes up, like, 3 levels for some reason.
I know the one you're talking about, that, like, goes in a spiral down to a bottom half.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre room, and, like, I genuinely have gotten to the point where I know, like, I can recognize it when I see it, because I spent so much time getting confused by it.
Yep. And now you just immediately go to the right corner and then go up it.
Yeah. Because I think that there's like, when you have rooms that are difficult to navigate, there comes a point where it can start to feel like the room is just trying to waste your time. Like that room on Eris, once you know the way, I never engage with the rest of the room. There's just no reason. I just go the correct route. But I do see what they mean in terms of, like, it can be more interesting to learn some of the tile sets that are more difficult to navigate. Like, Deimos has the, you know that big room where there's this is kind of hard to explain. There's a big pit in the middle, and there's, like, the branches that run across it. Capture
Big
targets
tree
spawn
in the
there.
middle. Yeah, I know that one. I like and I don't like that one, because there are all these little holes in, like, the bottom corners of the section.
Yeah.
And it just gets kind of confusing sometimes, and the waypoint doesn't even know where to go. I'm at the point on some of these tile sets where I'm not even looking at the waypoint. I'm looking at where the enemies are spawning on the map, the little red dots instead of the big yellow one, because that usually is my indicator on where I need to go. Because I take 2 steps across the branch, and then the yellow dot flings to another part of the map, and it's like, all right, am I going down? Am I going down the spiral staircase? Am I jumping across the pit to land on the hole that's in this wall? What am I doing?
Yeah, especially with like, with Deimos, there are some rooms in particular I think are kind of really bad about that, with, like, okay, there's, like, 5 different ways you can go. Good luck. Like,
Figure it out.
There's that one room as well with the, there's a version of this room in the Void, too, where you have, like, the, I don't know, the glass, like, container, or, like, little room within the room, and then there's a door on each end, and then if you jump on top of the glass thing, there's a hole in the wall that you can go through as well. Where sometimes it's just like, where the hell is this? And then it's like, oh, it's through the hole in the wall that's just kind of, like, innocuously there. Some of the rooms just have so many ways in and out of them that it's like, even if you know them all, you just have to check them all, which is kind of annoying.
Like, I like the idea of the derelict, but it seems like they just said, let's make them void tile, but let's, like, actively piss off the players trying to navigate it. I do agree, some older tiles, like Deimos, Eris, and Europa, need some touch-up. They need to be wider. Kind of like what they did with the Corpus ship rework. They just sort of spruced it up, PBR'd the textures, then made it wider.
Yeah. Because I think that, like, having some resistance in, like, navigating can be good for, like, having the player explore rooms, but I also feel like for me personally, the way I would prefer to encourage exploration is with secrets, as opposed to, like, making it difficult to navigate. Because if you have, like, secret rooms and things like that, like the labs, right? The labs is full of secret rooms, and I really like it for that reason. Well, that's part of it, at least. But if you don't want to engage with them, you're not, like, actively being hampered by the design of the labs every other time you're there for any other reason. Whereas if you want to explore the rooms and, like, take it in more, there's a reward for that with, like, the soma chord tones and stuff that are hidden around. But with something like the Derelict, whether or not you want to explore is not, you know, part of the question. You're just being subjugated to the way they're designed regardless.
Also, like, Jupiter, when they reworked Jupiter, I was very, puffed out chest and grumpy about that, but then when I actually, like, took time to learn the tile, go through all of the puzzle rooms that are there, I ended up really enjoying it.
Yeah, I really like their post-rework Jupiter. Personally, it's probably my favorite tile set. That reminds me as well, this person mentions the inclusion of parkour-based rooms that are difficult to get through. I liked those on Jupiter, but after I made my tile set secrets video on it, I did not realize how much of this community hates those rooms. Like, there were so many comments about them being too hard, and I just have to say, like, what? I have never struggled with them. I was, like, legitimately shocked to hear that. Yeah, I don't know. With the movement rooms and Jupiter, I've always thought they were fairly fun. But it seems like a huge amount of the community really, really doesn't like them. I would love to see more things like that, but I'm guessing DE doesn't really want to do more things like that because of people's struggle.
We also need to take account that a lot of people are playing on controller. I want to say maybe a good third of our player base is on console, and I don't know, from my experience, a lot of people complain about parkour on console.
Yeah,
that would just
fair.
be my takeaway from it. I could be wrong. I could be talking out of my ass. I'm just gonna assume that.
I think that's a fair assumption, is that part of it might just be the controller player base having a bit of difficulty.
Doing my own research.
Yeah, fuck it. I'm gonna just start making shit up and believing it. I think that's probably the way to go. That really is just this entire series, honestly. That's what we're just reading people doing the same thing, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I've always really liked the parkour rooms, especially with how many ways there are to navigate them, and there's all these little sort of subtle details, like being able to, like, stand on antennae, like they're, I guess it would be antennas. I think antennae is if it's an insect. But, like, the various antennas that are around can be stood on, like, zip lines and stuff like that, so you can use them for navigation and stuff, or, like, the crossbars can be stood on in the same way. I think that's a very neat feature of the tile set, is there's just, like, a lot of stuff that you can use to navigate it in a lot of different ways. Okay, I guess I think for this one, I see where this person's coming from in terms of, like, tile sets should be more engaging to navigate versus just going from point A to point B. But I feel like actively throwing obstacles in the way of the player might just kind of make it like a frustrating for everyone kind of situation, as opposed to like what the labs do, like I mentioned, with like making secrets to reward exploration while still being fairly smooth for the most part. I'll admit the labs does have some like murmur rooms that are kind of annoying to navigate if the waypoint is not feeling like cooperating that day, but I don't know. I think overall this take isn't like... I think it's just a matter of preference on some level. Don't know if this is a hot take or not, but I miss co-op in main quests. I remember I used to play the main story with my friend in co-op, and it was super fun, and a way to hook him into the game. Now, most of the main quests force you to play solo. I get that maybe the main story is something for one to do on their own time, but I do miss watching the cutscenes and playing the story with my friends. To be perfectly honest, I agree with this, but I don't know how they would change it.
Yeah, I feel the same. Until this comment, I completely forgot that you were able to do a bunch of older quests with friends. I remember that's how I got my girlfriend into the game, but yeah, now it's just all solo.
Yeah, what's even more wild, I think that the cutoff for that was the second dream. Like, the second dream is doable in co-op, and I remember that because I had to help a friend of mine because the sentients were too hard at the time for them to beat by themselves.
That's an insane sentence.
Yeah, it's weird that there was a point in time where the sentients were kind of threatening, you know, back in 2015. But yeah, like, I don't think... It's even weirder to me, too, because there are certain quests that I don't think need to be sold. Like, I mentioned Fortuna earlier when I was talking about this. Fortuna is mostly a series of bounties. For some reason, it is not co-op. And even after multiple nerfs, I still think Fortuna is pretty hard for how early it is in the game. They want to make it like the second or third quest you do, and they have MOAs that electric proc you when they touch you. So like, I would like to help my friends with that. I had a friend who actually tried the game and quit after they made it to the Fortuna quest because they got so annoyed and just never came back.
So I am still going through my MR0 account. I'm just picking away at it, and I'm reminded of that first day, just getting to Fortuna, and just getting knocked over constantly because for some reason they have a boner for just knockdowns on that open world, and the amount of damage that they're doing, like they're throwing level 25 units at you in this quest at times, like when you're trying to defend the console, and it's like, buddy, I have like a level 7 mag here. What am I supposed to do against this?
Yeah, literally. Especially because now...
Even if I did MR up, it would do nothing.
Now, Teshin will even tell you explicitly after the completion of the teacher, go to Fortuna and seek out someone named the business. And it's like, should we be telling people this before they've done, like, Howl of the Kupro? Like, this quest is pretty hard. I remember when I was doing that quest on my account when I was doing the Beating Warframe in a Day streams, I believe this was when this happened. There was a point where, like, if a Moa would kick me, I would try and roll in time with the electric proc so that the roll damage reduction would help, because I was like, I don't know if this actually works, but it's the only thing I could think of, because I would die. It's like, I'm over here getting desperate. We're scraping by in the Fortuna quest. It is, even after all of the nerfs it's received, I still think it's disproportionately difficult for how early it is, and I have no idea why you can't do it co-op.
Is the Glass Gambit a co-op quest? Because that came out after, right?
Yeah, I don't actually know, because the whole quest is like just the index minus like a couple missions. I'm not sure. I guess maybe I'd have to try it out at some point and see if you could rope other people into it, because my gut makes me want to say that, like, I imagine you could, but at the same time, like, if Fortuna and Heart of Deimos and stuff aren't co-op, I really have no idea.
Well, Google AI has no answer for me. It's just making shit up again.
You know, is it role-playing? That seems to be its favorite pastime.
It's telling me that I'm fighting against Nefanyo, not like Nefanyo's index team, that I'm fighting Nefanyo.
It must have taken that information from, like, DevStream 16.
Yeah, I guess we're just straight up dunking on Nefanyo. He's defending the goal himself in his weird box suit.
You know, I feel like you could probably body block it pretty efficiently, though.
Probably. Not as good as Atlas, but pretty good.
Yeah, when it comes to the, like, the quests, I feel like the direction the story has gone would make it really hard for you to be able to incorporate other people. And honestly, the multiplayer element of this game has just also become less emphasized over time. The game is, like, profoundly inconsistent about how many Tenno even canonically exist. So, like, I know there's a particular line from the Drifter when talking about Roth, where I think he says there's like 100 Tenno, but then after the completion of Gargoyle's Cry a few years prior, Fibonacci mentioned that thousands of clans participated, so it's like...
Which means thousands, at least thousands, tens of thousands of Tenno.
Honestly, if one Tenno is capable of what they're capable of in the story, fucking a dozen of them should be able to do a genocide level event on the Grineer. Like,
man, how did we like fail that war? How do we fuck up?
It's especially weird too with, like, I don't know, I think I'm maybe getting into a bit of different territory with this, but the power level of Warframes is also so vastly consistent. Like, in the Era cutscene, we see several of them struggling to take on, like, 3 Battleists, and then in the old piece, we see them fall from fucking space, and it's like, okay, what's happening right now? What's going on?
Alright, there is technically co-op in the old piece, and by technically I mean it's those weird little flowers you can leave behind. That's...
Oh, yeah.
That's technically co-op, right?
Yeah, it's like Elden Ring-ass co-op.
Try finger butt Foley.
We're late enough in the video, that's also gonna have to stay, and I fear. Yeah, I think that having more co-op quests would be fun, especially for some of the early ones. Like, I don't know if the story could handle co-op for a lot of the later quests. Like, I don't think 1999 could be a co-op quest. But maybe if we overhauled, like, Saya's Vigil and Vox Solaris and Heart of Deimos and some of the more, like, boring early ones to be at least mostly co-op to help people get their friends through them, I think that'd be an overall positive change.
Completely forgot about this one time I had to help Triboros. You know, we're far enough in the video. You're probably gonna have to bleep some of this out, but I was slamming my shalami so hard, and in the midst of my afterglow, Trib starts spamming my Discord like, help, help, please, please help, need help. What's wrong? Zeppelins! Zeppelins! So, he was doing... He was doing his Stug run, and he couldn't kill the Zeppelins without invalidating his run, so he needed me to join him in the Arcwing quest to kill the Zeppelins for him.
Okay, that makes sense. Because when you said Zeppelin, I was like, was he, like, doing a Fomorian? Because that's, like, totally optional. No, I forgot they were in the quest.
He couldn't get past the Zeppelins unless I joined him.
I completely forgot about, like, Triv's just Stug run in general. Like, I watched those videos way back when they first came out.
I think if you go back and watch that video, he does mention, it's like, I had to bother Sab during his masturbatory session to get him to help me to pop the Zeppelins. That's not a jape, it was true. Like, I was full thrusting into my fist. I was white-knuckling that shit.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Sab was beating that shit like it owed him money. Okay. I guess, is there anything else you want to say about this take, or...
That's all.
Fair enough, fair enough. I guess we can't top that, so I guess we might as well just move on. Hot take, there needs to be a prioritize as host option, especially for Railjack. I wish to play with others, even though my crew has aimbot, but I want my ship. And I don't know if lag affects damage, but I feel like I lose damage with high fire rate weapons if I'm not the host. Also, there needs to be a vote kick option. If I can't rad proc myself to deal with trolls anymore, then there needs to be other means. You know, I don't really... Has DE ever said, to your knowledge, why they're so finicky about letting us choose who the host is?
Yes. Yes. Scott did say, I remember this back in 2018, Scott said that everyone would want to be host. And that is a load of horse shit. That is just a lie, because a lot of people I know who don't have the best internet connections or who live in the Balkans, TG, I know where you live, they have... the knowledge that they should not be hosts, but sometimes it'll prioritize them for absolutely no reason. So I have to make my own prefab squad where I'm inviting people. Otherwise, it's a coin flip on whether or not I'm going to be the host, and I hate that shit. And it wouldn't be that much of an issue if so many things in this game weren't tied to the frame rate. Like, the tick rate of this game is tied to the frame rate of the host. So you can tell when shit is just going wrong, when doors take forever to open, or loot takes forever to get sucked up, or there are like 3 enemies on the map, and it's like, well, I guess I'm playing with someone who's hosting from Android. Thanks, man. This has been my most asked for feature for probably the past 7 years. DE, give me a let me host button, please.
Yeah, I find it weird as well, because you mentioned, like, Scott's rationale. If everyone checked the button that they wanted to be the host, couldn't they just fall back on the current system for picking a host at that point? Like, I feel like it would be, like, just a net positive of people who, like, have bad internet or are playing on their phone or a Switch, especially because we know that Switch and, like, mobile hosts reduce enemy spawns for the rest of their team. Like, why not let them opt out of being the host? Frankly, mobile players should be exempt from being a host literally ever. I don't even think they should be allowed to do that unless they're like all mobile players.
I still have ways to deliberately crash phone players that I have not reported.
You have the macros available.
I literally do, one of which is so simple, it's one button press, and it does a certain thing involving gear on my gear wheel, and it's a guaranteed crash for anyone on Switch or mobile.
That still works?
Yeah, you know the one.
Yeah,
it still works, and I refuse to let DE know about it until they give me a let me host button.
I remember this was like many years ago now, when the game was still fairly recent on Switch, when you mentioned that you had that, and I think it was Kazette called your bluff, so you walked up and crashed her game.
Funniest shit I've ever done. They still haven't fixed it.
It's like, yeah, nope, that works. That does work. I can't believe they hadn't fixed that.
I don't think we should add a kick option. This was another thing that Scott did touch on, and I think Pablo did later on too, and that a kick function would be abused.
Yeah.
And I agree.
That's the unfortunate reality with, like, any multiplayer game that has the option. Like, you look at games like CSGO or Team Fortress or anything like that. Like, it serves a legitimate purpose in those games if someone is throwing or trolling, but at the same time, it just gets abused. And in a game like this, where there aren't, like, competitive stakes to these things, I think that, like, I mean, I could see maybe, like, removing someone from your squad if you're not in a mission, like if you're the host, having like a remove from squad button like Destiny has, where you can like kick them from the fire team while you're in orbit or something like that. But if you're actually in a mission, being able to vote kick someone, people would just abuse that to, like, kick people right before they get the rewards or something. Like, that would 100% happen.
Yeah, that'd be a massive Richard relocation. We don't want to screw people out of their rewards, potentially. There are a lot of pubbies that made me, like, scratch my head and be like, how do you get dressed in the morning? But I would never, like, force that on them. Yeah, if we were back in the, like, the base of operations and we had an option, that'd be fine, but I still think it would be abused, and it isn't really a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like, I understand why this person feels that way, especially because they mention Railjack by name, and sometimes you can have Railjack teammates that are just, like, actively making your life worse. So, I can see why, if they play Railjack often, why they'd feel that way, but I think that, yeah, the potential for abuse outweighs the positives. Though this person mentions trolling, and Sab, you're aware of the Equinox trolling method, right? With Pacify and Negative Power Strength?
Yeah, I'm glad that that Kengineer brought that up, in hopes that maybe DE would touch Equinox. I don't think it's gonna happen, but yeah, I'm aware of it.
Because I mentioned it in my weird status effects video back in the day, but, like, genuinely, how the fuck is that even a thing? Like, Equinox can make enemies deal 5 times more damage. How did no one stop this from happening? It's so fucked.
Add a Speed Nova to the team too. Add a Goba.
Yeah, I see the vision. Maybe if people like that are out there, maybe we need a vote kick option. Maybe I'd agree with this guy if that became, like, a pandemic. We have, like, Equinoxes with low power strength running around into public lobbies and, like, defense missions.
We need more YouTubers to make videos saying that we need to do this until DE changes it.
Just apply pressure by making the experience miserable. Now you're really thinking like a Helldivers YouTuber, Sab. I'm proud of you.
Hell yeah.
Not sure if this is actually hot, besides for the most skilled veterans running the most difficult content, but here it goes. I think more AoE skills that are known in the community for being nukes need some form of line of sight check, or swap from an all-around AoE to a different shape, like a frontal cone. I do realize this paints too broad a stroke and is likely going overboard or overfixing, not to mention the jankiness of LOS. Regardless, some players are tired of being stuck with nothing to do or unable to fulfill on-hit or kill conditions. I usually play solo, but I figure these players deserve some love. Considering Sirius and Orion's recent release, this is a very topical thing. This guy was clairvoyant. The screenshot of this was posted like a month ago. I think it depends on the ability, but I've always found it interesting how much Warframe players hate having to see enemies to kill them. I get some tile sets are really finicky about it, like the Grenier Galleon has certain rooms where there's just a shit ton of walls in them, so it can feel really awkward trying to kill more than like 3 dudes at once. But then you have frames like Hildren where it's like, yeah, I really can't do anything.
I have been talking about this for a while. I don't want like a blanket line of sight nerf on everything, but I do think a lot of abilities do need something akin to like a frontal cone AoE, where at least it needs to be within your vision. Like I have to see their body, please. Hildren is just incredibly disruptive. I mentioned that video that I did earlier in this audio where a lot of people were saying stuff along the lines of, oh, well, if they nerf this, then they have to nerf this. And it's like, they brought up Cyto 9, Sobek, or they'll have to nerf this and this. And I'm just like, what, you think I'm going to disagree with you? Yeah, they should nerf that too, you idiot. Yeah, they should. Like, oh, there are other very harmful and disruptive strategies. Like, yeah, they should be nerfed too. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, it's kind of funny as well, because like Saren Sobek, I think it's a strategy I abuse whenever I'm like grinding focus, but funnily enough, despite its power, it is an LOS restricted strategy. It's just that it re-rolls the check on every enemy it kills, so it doesn't really matter.
It's chains.
Yeah.
Can you really call it line of sight if you're using it on Cyto 9?
Yeah, at that point, Cyto 9 is interesting because as far as I'm aware, he doesn't have the same mechanic that Araxia and Saren do, where if an enemy dies to the DOT, they re-trigger the explosion, and it, like, spreads. Like, so, let me change how I explain this. When Saren kills an enemy and they explode, they'll inflict nearby enemies with a toxin proc, and then when they die, they explode and inflict a toxin proc, and so on and so forth. I believe for Sight, that chain doesn't continue. Well, there's like a point where it stops. But of course, he can see through fucking walls, so it doesn't really matter for him that he can't, blow up an entire room in 2 shots, because he can just see everyone anyways. So, like, sure, he'll blow up, like, maybe the building instead of the zip code. But when he can see everything in, you know, the entire area, it doesn't really fucking matter that much.
Yeah, it's also a lot of the heavy lifting being done there is the electricity and the chaining.
Yeah.
And once one thing chains, you don't really need to be line of sight.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I just don't think any frame should have, like, a 320 kpm. I just think that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, especially as well with, like, I think this kind of breaches into a different problem with Warframe players at large a little bit, of, like, them not wanting to play the game. Like, I remember when Dante got nerfed and people were really mad about the LOS change, and to be fair, when Dante was first
It was a little
nerfed,
buggy.
Yeah, LOS checks in this game sucked. But even after all of the changes got made with them, and I'd say that LOS changes are generally pretty consistent now, with like the way that they do their checks, I still see people saying that Dante is bad because of his nerf, making his 4 LOS.
That might be the hottest take this video. If I ever heard anyone say that. It's on site. It is on site with that person.
6 months after Dante's nerf, I searched his name in the official Warframe Discord, and everything I found was people saying that he sucked. I'm not even kidding.
I'm suddenly for eugenics.
And it's... you know, fuck it, that's staying in.
Fuck!
But seeing stuff like that legitimately bewilders me. Like, I received a comment. So I ran a community tab post, maybe you saw this, but I ran a poll asking people how they felt about Sirius and Orion, and I got a comment that was like, Equinox having no line of sight on her 4 gives her a more complete and interesting kit than Sirius and Orion. And it's like, do you even want to play the game at this point? Like,
I'm killing myself.
Like, saying Equinox's 4 having no LOS makes her a more complete Warframe than Sirius and Orion. Like, don't get me wrong, I made a 40-minute video on my problems with Sirius and Orion. I don't think they're perfect by any means, but Equinox is a 2-trick pony where each form is designated its 1 trick, right? Like, there's not a ton going on there. But for some people, the line of sight check is the frame. If they have one, they're bad. If they don't have one, they're good.
I will say, though, that Sirius and Orion are literally 2 fucking stars clashing and colliding. Sometimes I don't feel like a tiny little piece of glass should stop them.
Yeah,
It does get a little iffy.
I made the suggestion in my Sirius and Orion video, maybe giving it like an inner and outer radius, where there's like a smaller inner radius that's not affected by line of sight checks, and the larger outer one that is, just to like preserve the playstyle for people who like the bigger one.
Oh, we're kind of doing a old Zephyr bird shield before it was simplified.
I think that there is a genuine argument in regards to the line of sight thing for Sirius and Orion specifically, because you look at frames like Uriel or Equinox, and I'm saying Equinox with air quotes on this one, they require build-up or they're no line of sight. You can't spam them. Again, Equinox, that's with huge air quotes, because you like get 2 slam attack kills and you can spam the shit out of it, to be honest with you, especially if you have an armor strip. But like Uriel, I think is a fairly solid example. Like, he has a really powerful 4, but he can't spam it, really. The only way that I think he can generate his like charge passively, quote unquote, is I think it's hitting enemies with his 3, but he gets so much more charge for playing around his demons, and you're kind of subject to the whims of whatever they feel like doing at that moment. So, like, Uriel has this really powerful no line of sight nuke, but he can't spam it, and the question, I think, becomes, what point is something being spammable enough that it deserves the nerf? Because Pablo already said on Twitter they're not getting rid of the line of sight. We know that's not happening. But like with Sirius and Orion, like, yeah, you have to work towards the nuke, but if you really want to, you can just spam swap until you have it. So like...
Yeah, I wouldn't call just mashing my 1 key really working towards it.
Yeah, it's definitely not on Uriel's level, for sure. Though, okay, minor side tangent about Uriel. Whoever at DE coded Gulfagor to latch onto the hardest target to kill, I think, was, like, on something. Why would you make a little demon who gives you pickups when you kill an enemy, and then have him latch onto the hardest guy in the room to kill? I have footage of him latching onto an Eximus Necromech like 5 times in a row as I'm desperately trying to kill it because I have no fucking energy because he won't latch anything else.
I think it may just prioritizing Eximus units in general. Yeah, I just had a stroke. Can I try that again? I think it might just be prioritizing Eximus units in general.
I think he does, but it's like, they have Overguard. They're not even gonna get stunned by him latching them. Why the fuck does he do this? I don't know. That's a minor thing about Uriel that kind of annoys me. Obviously, on this channel, you're not allowed to talk any shit about Gulfagor for reasons that involve being dismembered by my audience.
Buddy, it's your community. You literally made them.
Yeah, I know.
You did the meme.
This is like, I'm one of those like political YouTubers that's in fear of getting canceled by their own audience. I can't say anything bad about Golfagora. They'll fucking devour me.
It's like if I woke up yesterday and said, no more Yorelli mating press jokes.
That's like the Sabuuchi audience 9/11 level event, honestly.
No, the Sabuuchi 9/11 event would be the 9/11 tier list, but I get what you mean.
That's true. I think it's funny how you've been on YouTube for a pretty long time, and people know you for like the worst possible things they could know you for. Like, oh, isn't that the 9/11 tier list guy? Like,
oh
yeah?
My god. I'm the 9/11 tier list guy, I'm the butt plug guy, I'm the magnesium citrate guy, I'm the armpit tier list guy. It never stops. I'm noticed at least once a day when I play Warframe, and it's usually someone exclaiming one of those things.
Dude, I've seen, like, when I bring you up in my chat, almost always someone will ask in the chat, is that the butt plug guy?
Fuck's sake, this is my cross to bear.
It's like, yep, that's the butt plug guy. You're correct about that.
You are enabling them!
You made the video. It's the same thing with me and Golfagor. This is your doing. Maybe you should have taken the sponsorship.
They were paying good, man. And I got to keep the plug.
I was gonna say, I think that if they sent you the free plug, the money would have been an afterthought. You probably saw that shit at your bank account and you were like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm crying and coming all the way to the bank.
However you get that bag, I respect that. I think more recently designed frames feel almost too tightly designed, to a point that it makes them less dynamic to build or pilot. You don't need much help with energy or health in your loadout, because you have it baked into your kit now. At most, you'll just throw on a purple shard because you can spawn orbs. I understand that asking for frames to have problems is kind of unhinged, but I think this is an interesting topic to have a discussion about. I think this is an interesting, because when I first read the frames feel too tightly designed, my mind went in kind of a different direction, which is older Warframes felt like you could build them in a lot of ways to prioritize like a certain ability or playstyle, but maybe this is just me. I think a lot of newer frames feel like there's a way they're supposed to be built, if that makes sense. Like there's a particular direction that they kind of want to move more naturally, as opposed to some older Warframes where their abilities, I don't know, maybe it's like they're a little bit more discordant in that sense.
I feel like they're a little bit more open-ended in that sense, while these frames, you have different ways to build them, but yeah, they have like a very dominant strategy that they want you to use. I felt like this about new frames pretty much ever since Yorelli, where Yorelli seemed to be the first real hodgepodge of abilities that I've like already seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just keeps on spreading out from there, now to the point where it feels like every frame no longer has like a role identity. I mentioned this in my Foley video, where every frame is just like, it is self-sufficient, it does everything, and you're really building around like one sort of playstyle around them. But the good part of that is it feels like on a lot of these frames there are no real bad abilities. Like, I feel like a frame having a junk ability that's like the guaranteed, oh, I'm subsuming that, get rid of that, I don't want it, is kind of harmful to a frame's kit. And we haven't really had that up until, well, Sirius and Orion, because my god, both of their 2s make me as flaccid could be. But having frames that have really tight kits, I like it, but it's at the detriment of having a proper role and identity.
Yeah, and I think that just the process of building them kind of gets homogenized as well. Like, if you have a frame that, like, really wants, like, a specific stat and not really much else. Like, you look at Corvex, he's so dominated by range as his stat that, like, I don't feel like there's a ton of room to go outside of that identity unless you want to play him in, like, a really weird way, if that makes sense. Like, if you want to use him...
do I have a weird way. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, if you want to play him around Wrecking Wall or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, because, like, a lot of older Warframes, I feel like there was, at least back when I started playing, you would have, like, okay, this is my Volt speed build, and the whole build was tailored around speed at the detriment of everything else, right? Or, like, my Volt, capacitance build or something. But nowadays, it's like, you don't really have to build into a certain ability nearly as much, at least in my opinion. A lot of frames feel like they kind of naturally, like, want one specific stat or, like, maybe a couple. I think it depends, though. On some level, it's, like, a matter of, the philosophy of the person building them in terms of what they value, I suppose.
Look at what they did with Nova.
Yeah.
Kind of like how you used to build for power strength for slow, negative power strength for speed, but now it's delegated to just a tap or a hold.
Yeah, it's definitely better for like her gameplay flow in missions, but it did kind of remove that element of like the modding screen choice, and it also removed Neutral Nova from the game, so that kind of sucked. All 3 people who ran Neutral Nova.
Yeah, that was me. It's like people would yell at me, just use Banshee, and then I would just say, oh.
Yeah, I also think that it also removed an interesting part of Nova where her damage vulnerability on her 4 was like completely agnostic to strength, so your power strength didn't actually affect it, which that was like a cool element of building around that ability specifically.
And then like range didn't really do much because it was all duration. Even antimatter drop range didn't really do anything.
Yeah, I know they did change Null Stars to be like strength and duration based now as well, which was kind of interesting to like sort of shift her away from that being like her only stat that really mattered.
Yeah, you needed so much strength initially to get the max DR on her. That's probably why.
Because I can't believe that we didn't even know about Nova's DR until it was like, was it Glenn or someone just said it in a live stream, and it was like, what?
It's mentioned on Twitter by someone, and of course you had all of the fucking paste eaters pushing up their glasses saying, oh, I knew that all along. It's like, literally no one knew that. No, you did not. There was no documentation online, literally anywhere about it. Even in the game, no one ever mentioned that.
Yeah, it was such a weird piece of, like, it was a major, like, after we knew it was a major part of playing Nova, was maxing out your DR. But it's like, yeah, nobody was told this up until just someone mentioned it. I love looking at things like on the Warframe wiki and just seeing, like, the source for a pivotal piece of information is like a Twitter post or a dev stream comment, and it's like, oh, okay.
Up until recently, DE was terrified of tooltips for some reason. Just game devs in general are terrified of tooltips. If you're an aspiring game dev and you're listening to this, please, we like information. Make that information available. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, so related thing with that, just as like a comparison, Warframe has been getting way better about explaining the actual numbers of things, and I've been learning this the hard way because I've been playing Destiny again. I know, point and laugh.
Sorry.
Destiny will tell you, for example, like the Frost Armor mechanic. Frost Armor grants you damage reduction. That is all it will tell you. The quantity is a complete fucking mystery, and they do this with literally everything. The game will not give you the actual number. It doesn't even tell you what your actual damage per shot is on a weapon. It's a bar from 0 to 100 called impact. You don't actually know what the damage is. It's so fucking irritating.
Meanwhile, you'll have DE, like when they released Foley, her first ability. I didn't know this until like testing her out, that using your 1 will status cleanse you, kind of like a rolling guard does. And when I brought that up in my video, it's like, how was I supposed to know? I don't know, guess. I got some smart aleck in my comment section saying, oh, it sounds like someone doesn't read the tips. And I went into the menu, and I had to scroll through like 6 tips before it's like then listed there. It's like, did you know that if you press your first ability, you can status cleanse? It's like, okay, that's cool and all. Why isn't it on the ability? That's kind of really important to her kit.
Yeah,
it's really important.
There's I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a smaller channel who goes by .Thanda that's been working on a series of like fact-checking ability menu tips.
I saw that.
And some of the stuff that they found in that video that's just not mentioned in the ability itself at all, but is mentioned in the tips. Like, I think like half of what Molt does is just not mentioned in the ability description literally at all. It's like, what?
They've just always been like this.
Yeah, it's like, at least it's somewhere, but I feel like if a player has to go digging for it, like when I got Sirius and Orion, one of the first things I did was just read through the tips after I read all their ability descriptions, because I'm like, there's gonna be some bullshit in here. Yeah, I also, so when it comes to just like looking at this tip as well, this person mentions I understand asking for a frame to have problems is kind of unhinged. I think it's fair that a frame should have some kind of weakness or like shouldn't be able to do everything, but I think there's kind of layers to it. So when I brought up Excalibur in my passive tier list, I mentioned that I think he struggles a lot with survivability at higher levels, like Steel Path level and beyond. Base Excalibur starts to fall behind the other starters with like staying alive. And my suggestion was to give him like 1% melee lifesteal, because I think it wouldn't be enough healing in the early game, that it would be overpowered, but in the late game it would help play into like his glass cannon identity of, dealing damage to sustain himself. And I remember I brought that idea up to a former Warframe YouTuber, And they were like, I don't think that that should happen because Warframe should have weaknesses. And it's like, yeah, but like I think there's layers to this. Like a Warframe weakness might be you don't have a status cleanse, not I can't survive at level 100. Like I think there are layers to the discussion of like a Warframe having like a built-in problem of some kind. Like you look at Jade, I actually think she does this really well. Jade is super strong. She is the most energy-hungry motherfucker they have ever designed.
Well, not anymore.
Honestly, even with Arcane Sculptor, I feel like if you don't have a way to get your energy back, if you're playing around her nuke, she still, like, she will bleed you dry eventually.
God, I wish. But, I've I don't know, I haven't had much issues myself, but granted, I'm very, I'm not spamming that middle click as often as I should.
Yeah, if you play around the middle click, at least in my experience, Jade is going to bleed through your energy, even if you're using Sculptor. And so it's like, she has this built-in problem that you have to address if you're going to play her that way, and I actually think it's a good thing. She's a very energy-hungry frame, and she has an immense amount of power tied up in that high energy requirement, and if you can solve it, if you dedicate resources to solving it, then you can play her quite well. And I think that that kind of thing is good. If you have like a problem that you kind of have to acknowledge to play the frame effectively, or having some kind of problem that just prevents the Warframe from doing like literally everything. You look at certain frames like, you know, more recently, I guess like Araxia. Araxia just kind of has a little bit of everything. She has damage vulnerability, crowd control, orb generation, invisibility, status immunity, a giant fucking health bar. Her little scuttlers, she can armor strip with Archon continuity. Like, I don't know if I could even think off the top of my head what I would consider like a weakness. She can't use a melee in Silken Stride, I guess, even though they gave her one for some reason. Araxia getting a signature melee is such a weird decision.
I feel like they wanted to allow her to use a melee when she was in her interacted form, but they just couldn't get it rigged up in time, or eventually it just became too much of a hassle.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair wager. Yeah, I feel like, honestly, personally, like when it comes to this take, I think that frames having certain weaknesses you either have to like play around in terms of your build, or just like not being able to do everything, so that maybe they need to, you know, have their teammates assist them, like back in the day in like Void Towers and stuff, before the days of Xeneric and Energy Nexus and all that jazz. I think that could certainly be cool, but like I said, there's layers to the how big of a problem should a Warframe have, because like, you know, I don't have a form of knockdown immunity, and I blow up when looked at are two very different levels of problem.
Yeah, I, for the most part, do agree with this take. I'm surprised at the number of hot takes that I am agreeing with. Maybe that just says something about me.
Call of Duty was a big missed opportunity. I know a lot of players are clamoring for an old-school Warframe/Dark Sector-esque game mode, and I think Veilbreaker could have been a great way to implement that. Even small changes like allowing it to be co-op, or not reusing the exact same 3 missions over and over would have been nice. On the other hand, I'm not sure how many people are just saying they want classic Warframe out of nostalgia or whatever. The game mode could end up abandoned, even if it did cater to that crowd. Also, Kahl and Hollvania would go hard. You know, I think Call of Duty is a sad state of affairs, because after they made the changes to it with like the random weapon pickups and stuff, I think it became a lot more fun. But I think it's pretty clear to me between like the call missions and Foley's Hunt requiring use of your operator and the entirety of the Duviri experience, Warframe players really hate not playing the same Warframe they've been playing for like the last 10 years. If you mix in something that isn't just a standard Warframe, a lot of people don't like it, and I feel like that's a big part of why Kahl and his content struggled, was because people just don't want to play something that isn't Warframe, kind of regardless of the actual substance of the content, at least in my experience.
I personally really liked the call missions, and just something different while still staying familiar to the Warframe world. But for me, it was just the repetitive nature. It was a very rewarding game mode for the time invested. Like, every week I was putting in less than 10 minutes to get all of the challenges done, and I'm walking away with an Archon shard. That's not bad for that time period, at the very least. And I feel like if there was a bit more variety and more incentive to run the missions, it would be more enjoyable. I've been running them on my MR0 account recently, and not doing them for like 2 years. I'm enjoying them. It's a breath of fresh air, like relearning them and running through them again. So I feel like maybe a few more missions, maybe with some more variables, side objectives, it can be worth it. The issue is they then took the incentive to run it, like they gave the shard to Bird 3 and said, nope, no more shards. Like, this could easily be a place to put some arcanes or some, I don't know, universal medallions that you can get every week, Riven Ciphers, and maybe an extra ultimatum like what you get from the Riven Sliver shop. Yeah, there are probably a million other small little trinkets in there that are evergreen. That's the big word, evergreen. We need repeatable, evergreen content to keep you coming back while simultaneously not boring you to tears.
Yeah, I honestly wonder with Kahl, because like a very common and I think very valid criticism of these missions is the repetitive nature. Even after the improvements with like they added Bankrotel and Sprag, they added the weapons you can find and pick up and stuff like that to like improve the variety. Fundamentally, 3 missions isn't a lot, and it almost feels to me like instead of expanding the content to make the evergreen content more engaging to grind, they just took the evergreen thing out of the shop so that you'd finish the grind and then you wouldn't have to engage with it anymore. I think that having more call missions, like I'll be honest, when they added the system, I knew they were gonna abandon it like an update or 2 later. Unfortunately, the same shit happened with Duviri. Like, I guess Isleweaver kind of revisited it, but man, I don't know if you played Duviri lately. It's so fucking buggy. Like, it's just kind of been left to decay. Yeah. It's really sad.
Hey, you remember Face Off?
Yeah. You know what sucks, dude? Face Off is fun. I don't know if you...
Oh, it's great.
Like, the game mode itself is awesome. It's just that it's not rewarding, and people can just steal your rewards from you by doing dumb shit. Did you know if the enemy team has a host migration, you get no Conclave standing?
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah,
it's fucked. Face Off is another one of those things. It's like really cool game mode conceptually, really fun to actually play. No reason to do it. And I think Kahl is kind of in the same position nowadays, especially with just how repetitive his missions get. Because, like, I remember I'm in the same boat as you, where, like, on release, I thought they were awesome. Learning, like, what my chat and I called the Five Nights at Freddy's mission, the one in Spaceport, and stuff like that. And then there's, Junk Run and just the repeat of the Veilbreaker, quest mission on the Murex. And, like, I think Kahl's jetpack is really fun as well when you get to use that. But I feel like if this was like a more long-term plan of like, okay, every 6 months to a year, we add a new Kahl mission, kind of like the Incarnins almost, where like periodically just get like a new one. I feel like that would have been a much more interesting way to keep things moving and make the like evergreen elements of the store more interesting if they were to keep them. But yeah, I feel like their solution to the repetitiveness was just to pull the Archon shard so that you could finish the grind and then not have to engage with it ever again, which kind of sucks.
There are a lot of instances where DE will put their toes in the water, feel the water is too cold, and then pull out. Just, there was a lot of pushback on the Kahl mission, not because of, like, the Kahl mission itself, but just, like, how the repetitiveness of it and the lack of variety. And I feel like they may have gotten the information sort of skewed when they were reviewing it, and it really is a shame that it was just left to die. DE seems to do this quite a bit, and I would like to see them go back to it. They do have another studio now working under them. I think ever since, Isleweaver with Studio Sumo. They're, like, helping them with these smaller updates and, like, tile sets and stuff while they're working on the big stuff. I feel like having them along to work on, like, a new Kahl mission, like, every 3 to 6 months, just to keep things a little fresh and while giving us incentive to run them. Like, it's not out of the realm of, like, impossibility. I think it's possible.
Yeah. I also think that with the Kahl missions, it could be good as well to change how they work in terms of their weekly rotation, because as it stands, if you don't do a Kahl mission, it just never cycles over, which makes sense, but it also means that, like, it can be kind of annoying if you have that one mission that you really don't like. Say that someone doesn't like the stealth mission, because, to be fair, there are times where I just don't want to deal with that shit. I wonder if maybe they could change it to being like you get to pick your mission from like a selection. If there was ever enough of them, that would be a possibility. I don't know. I feel like
strike playlist.
Yeah, I see the vision. Yeah, I don't know. I think Kahl is a very sad missed opportunity. I think that his missions were quite fun, like the first few times that you did them. And like I mentioned earlier, I definitely got a big dose of this when I was doing my game mode tier list stream, because I put Duviri in S tier, and I got a lot of people in my chat like, why'd you put Duviri in S? I would put it in F. And when I would ask them why, it's just like, I want to play Warframe. And I've seen that with a lot of other modes too, like Foley's Hunt. That was a big criticism, was I don't want to play my operator, I want to play my Warframe. And There is more nuance to the discussion for both of those things than just that point, to be clear. But there are some people where, like, that is where it begins and ends for them. Is if I'm not playing the same Warframe I've been playing for the last 5 years, I don't want to play it. I personally love the variety of the playing something that isn't just, you know, the same Warframe I've been playing everywhere else. You know, when it comes to, like, Railjack or Duviri or whatever. But some people just don't want any kind of change up in that fundamental part of the experience. They just want to play Warframe. And I think that that's just ultimately a matter of preference, but I also imagine that that's some component of why things like Kahl and Duviri kind of struggled. And Foley's Hunt especially, I think that's part of why it struggled, other than just on release being a uniquely frustrating mode for a lot of people. You can definitely tell who did and didn't put effort into their waybounds when that mission released.
It's a big test to see you watched a Void Cascade guide and built purely for damage and then nothing else.
Yeah, people have to finally remember that the like movement speed on Void Sling Arcane exists.
I love that.
Yeah, Foley's Hunt, I think, could be like an entire episode of this show in and of itself.
I have opinions on Foley's Hunt, and most of them are really good opinions, because I think Foley's Hunt is a fantastic game mode that is rewarding, that is different enough, but I do understand that people, like, when they play Warframe, they want to play Warframe. I disagree that they would be bad game modes because of that, but I see where people are coming from.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. And I will say as well, personally, I like Foley's Hunt for the most part, but I do have my issues with it. Why the fuck are random syndicate medallions in the drop pool for the end? Like,
yeah, that whoever did that needs to be fired out of a cannon into the sun, just clogging up my drop tables with these medallions I'm never going to use because I've already swapped to the other side. Like, no, I don't want these.
Just replace them all with one consolidated universal medallion drop chance, and you now have a very good incentive to run the game mode in comparison to all of these individual, like, oh, if I'm not aligned with a red veil and I get like one of their like exalted marks, okay, I might as well have gotten fucking nothing.
Yeah, at least take me out to dinner before you fuck me in the ass.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Yeah, I think that I've got most of what I wanted to say about this done. I guess anything else you would like to add, or good to move on to the last
That's basically
one?
it. 100% agree with it.
Hot take, super bosses should be farmable and used as a selling point for an update. Make them another layer of farming by making it a source of valuable resources such as loads of credits, endo, extra arcanes, kuva, rad relics, aya, etc. like a loot bag. Honestly, loud incorrect buzzer. I think this is the wrong answer.
This might be the one we might kind of disagree on.
So here's my explanation, kind of using the rationale Pablo laid out. The super bosses are designed to be a purely optional challenge for people who want to experience that level of difficulty. It's a thing that you do because you want to challenge yourself, and your reward is purely vanity to show other people you've conquered the challenge. If the super bosses were required for something, or they became a farm, you would optimize the challenge out of the challenge. The entire point of them being positioned as they are is to be a thing you overcome, not a thing that you farm. Once you get all the vanity things, you're supposed to be done with them, right? I feel like making them some kind of repeatable farm would make them lose the purpose of why they were made in the first place, which was to be a unique additional level of challenge over the rest of the game for people who want to try and put themselves up to that challenge, as opposed to just being another node that you're supposed to farm. Frankly, I don't even think the Guilty should drop the Lyroik bridges. That should just be fucking removed, if you ask me, because it is a more efficient farm than the Hunhullus missions if you're fast.
You know, I kind of see that. I never really thought about it that way, and I will actually bow to that. I do think that maybe having the super boss be a sort of maybe once a week drop of a loot bag could be a good compromise, I would say. I feel like new ways to get credits, endo, arcanes, kuba, like more is good. Like more options.
Yeah.
Not every week do I want to go out of my way and farm 5 Void Angels for my lump sum of kuba, or do a defense mission for my kuba in a Hollvania, like turning in my heartstrings. So maybe I feel spicy and I want to do a super boss. Maybe just having it a one time a week thing, just as a sort of little extra spice, a little variety.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I think that, like, for me, I agree with you that more ways to obtain these things are good, but personally, I think that super bosses should be just divorced from the regular play things for loot. like mentality. I think that when you're doing a super boss, at least in my experience, and I've talked about this on stream before, for part of why I think players don't like the super bosses, is that it's such a huge shift in mentality. When you're fighting the super boss, you are not fighting it for a drop, you are fighting it for, like, the personal satisfaction of beating it. And then, ultimately, with, like, the title you unlock or whatever, there are... Like, I honestly feel like Warframe has very few titles that I think are legitimately impressive to own, but I would argue basically all of the super boss ones, except for maybe Fragmented, honestly that boss is kind of easy, are fairly impressive if someone has them. So I think that, like, the experience of it is not about, like, oh, I'm grinding this thing till I get the drop I want. It's I'm grinding this thing because I'm trying to beat it. It's like a Dark Souls boss at that point, in terms of, like, my objective is to play the boss, learn its attacks, kind of analyze what I'm doing wrong, and then go in again with adjustments to both my playstyle and my build based on what's not working. And I think that a lot of Warframe players don't like that because nothing else in the game is like that. Fundamentally, it is just a shift in how you think about your approach to the mission that has to happen, because I've seen, in my Super Boss Guide comments, I have unintentionally farmed a ton of salt from people who don't like the bosses, and talk about them in ways that are just kind of frustrating to read as someone who made guides for all of them. So I see people say that, like, they require shield gating, they require incarnans, they require specters, all this shit that is just objectively untrue. I mean, even, like, in the descriptions where I have the Accolade Acquisitions playlist, where I show, like, a commentated run of me beating the boss with every Accolade Warframe, that it's just proof enough that you don't need those things. I've DR tanked against all of the super bosses with different Warframes. It is possible.
Yeah, they're designed to be done with the Warframes that don't even have that sort of option, so yeah, that is just wrong. I've only ever run super bosses basically one time each.
Yeah.
Because there's a lack of incentive to do it, which then goes back to my previous discussion where we're talking about incentive, and there is a thing to be said about the incentive being able to the satisfaction of being able to overcome these challenges, but they put this time and effort into these bosses, these super bosses, and just playing them once just kind of feels like a waste.
Yeah.
In a way. I have been playing a lot of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition recently. Oop, hold on, my screen just went black.
I heard your mic fry for a second there.
Yeah, sorry. I've been playing a lot of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition lately, and if anyone who has played that game knows about the end game, it basically is just fighting super bosses, like Telethia the Endbringer, and you're doing that deliberately for the drops to craft to let you just fight super bosses more efficiently. And I don't feel like we need that level of loot from these bosses. I do still feel like maybe a once a week sort of grab bag to incentivize running them would be a good idea. I just feel like it's a waste that they put all the time and effort into these bosses just for like a one-time run and a pat on the back.
Yeah, well, I think that, I guess it depends, again, beyond the incentive thing. If you want to get the accolade glyphs and stuff, you would have to beat the boss at least 6 times as like a bare minimum. But I think for a lot of people it will be like a one-time thing. I guess the question becomes, because I see, like, when you mention like the gameplay loop of like doing a super boss to obtain gear to do that kind of content more efficiently. That's like Destiny raids are like that. They have content from the raid that makes the raid easier on subsequent completions. But the super bosses are such a cut above the rest of the game in difficulty that I feel like if there was to be an incentive for them that was grindable, it would kind of bring how do I put this? It would bring them into the rest of the gameplay loop in a way that would make them feel more necessary, I guess, versus they're currently a totally optional thing. And I worry that at that point it would just be like I mentioned earlier, like people would start to over-optimize them. Like you can already beat the Guilty in 2 minutes with Noko if you really want to. And I think that kind of thing starts to like optimize the challenge and the fun of overcoming the challenge out of the equation. I think it also just depends. Like you mentioned, like personally, I ran them because I thought they were fun, and that was the only reason I needed. If that's not enough of a reason for you, and there needs to be some kind of loot incentive, then I think that it's one of those things where it's just like, that's just kind of like a fundamental divide in the priorities of the player. I think these are kind of more designed for people who don't want to go with them with that mentality in mind. And I think that keeping them separate from the wider gameplay loop ensures that, in a way, people bitching about them being too hard doesn't get them over nerfed, because that's another concern of mine, to be honest with you, is after seeing, like, I think I'm very jaded about this because of my own guides about this video getting so many comments.
Oh, you're talking about the Vanguard, right? Like Ash.
Yeah, with, like, dude,
Yeah.
Ash losing his insta-kill pisses me off, but we're not going to talk about
Yeah,
that.
I think that was really stupid.
Like, Ash went from the most threatening member of the Vanguard to easily, like, the least dangerous. You don't even... If he Blade Storms you, you can fucking shield gate. It doesn't fucking matter anymore. But when it comes to, like, the super bosses, even if I think that sometimes they might warrant a nerf, fuck the tank, by the way. Of the super bosses, I think it is easily the least fun because of its stupid fucking nullifying slime. I worry that, like, if they were to bring them down into the gameplay loop, people who, frankly, aren't very good at the game would have their criticisms amplified by the fact that there is now a thing they can't get that has a tangible benefit to their gameplay locked behind them. Because I think how Pablo explained it in his thread is that they've deliberately made the super bosses cosmetic only to keep that kind of thing from happening, even though they still get complaints to nerf them. They kind of wanted to make it separate from that wider experience. Again, I think ultimately I'm kind of just talking myself in circles. I think it's really just like a fundamental, what do you value in the experience of doing a mission? If it's the reward, then I don't think it's a piece of content that people will want. If it's the the challenge of doing it, you'll enjoy it. But then there is the element of, if they're gonna put all this effort into the bosses, then nothing is going to happen with them for like the majority of the player base. It's almost like the raids thing again, where it's like a thing that would take effort to maintain, but most of the player base isn't doing. Like, fun fact, Ash and Caliban in the Vanguard, ever since the release of the Guilty, their revenge attacks do nothing. They have no hitbox.
I didn't know because, well, I haven't run them since they came out.
Yeah, so they, as far as I'm aware, it's never been fixed. They just do nothing, and no one's noticed because nobody fucking plays the mission. The only bug that I know of from the Guilty that got fixed quickly was, you might be familiar with Trinity eating your dog.
I'm sorry?
So there used to be a bug. So Trinity in the Vanguard fight has Well of Life, where she'll cast it on the player or their companion. Like the player version of Well of Life, on launch, if Trinity or an ally were to die in its radius, it would like damage the player to save them. But if it was your companion, they die, and they would never come back. If your companion died, they were gone for the rest of the mission. Here's the shitty thing. Well of Life was borderline instant. So there were times where Trinity would be like almost dead. She'd cast it on your companion right when you killed her, and she'd just, boom, eat your dog and become invincible. And you were just without it for the rest of the mission now. Because, like, there is counterplay to the ability. You can use your amp to shoot it off of your companion or yourself. But if it's that fast, yeah, dude, your dog's gone. So they changed it so that it no longer insta-kills your companions. It leaves them at, like, 1 health or something, so it doesn't fucking rob you of them.
But yeah, I feel like if they... I do get, like, not wanting to give, like, a tangible advantage to running these sorts of things, but that's why it's, like, it's an option where you can get this sort of thing elsewhere, and in a lot of cases more efficiently, like, let's say, Kuva. I just think it would be nice to have another alternative of farming.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a once-a-week type of thing, but I do understand that a lot of people just, especially the devs, want this to just sort of be a self-gratifying sort of challenge.
Yeah, like I said, I think it just fundamentally comes down to what incentive do you personally need to engage with a piece of content. And I think it's kind of, I don't know, I get where you're coming from, for sure, but like I said, I think it's ultimately just down to like a personal...
What you value.
Yeah, just a personal value system of what you think a specific piece of content should be or what it should reward.
So I'm on the fence with this one. I agree and I disagree.
Yeah, fair enough. Personally, I'm in the disagree camp. I don't think that super
fair.
bosses need some kind of like, I feel like it goes against the point of the challenge. Listen, I can see your perspective on the matter for sure. All right, well, we've officially reached the end of the episode. So while I need to pad, my time out a bit so that the members scroll can run on screen, but like I did with Sci-Fi Sab, while I've got you here, now that we're at the end of the video, obviously I'll tell all the viewers to make sure to check out Sab's channel. It'll be in the description as always. But while I've got you, is there anyone you want to shout out, any projects you want to mention you're working on, like anything you want to say to the CoolKid 369 audience while you've got them?
I have literally no projects in the pipeline. I have ideas. I'm just dealing with a bunch of stuff. IRL, health issues. I'm not even sure if I am dying at the moment because I don't know what's wrong with me. America, fuck yeah, America 250, let's go.
Let's go, baby.
I don't know. Check out Mr. Warframe guy, you probably already do. Check out Sci-Fi Freak, great Limbo content. If you're one of those glue snippers that enjoys Limbo, small Warframe YouTuber by the name of CoolKid369, subscribe to him. Makes funny analysis videos.
That might be the worst take in this whole video, actually.
Oh, fuck, I'm sorry. And Yoreli Mating Press.
I respect that, I respect that. Well, make sure to sub to Sab's channel. You know, keep tabs on whatever, you know, sex toy he decides to incorporate into one of his projects next time. You know, I feel like, because you've done, what, 2 of those videos now. Do you think they're going to reach out to you for a 3rd one?
I saw how many toys I did manage to sell with the last one, which was double what I sold in the first video, despite it not doing as well.
Really?
So it's only a matter of time until they reach out again, and I honestly have no idea how I'm going to one-up controlling Warframe with my penis.
Hopefully you've got time. Hopefully you've got time to figure it out.
I had to learn how to code just for that video.
You know, I think it was worth it if you're selling a lot of Loven's products.
I have the Jerkinator right here. I got the buttons and everything.
Maybe I shouldn't ask on the airwaves. Have you ever seen if it actually works?
What is it?
The fucking joystick.
The stroking.
Yeah.
Yes. I did. And I tried it with the jorking function, and let's just say, 200 strokes per minute? Jesus Christ, that shit is smooth now. But
you fucking polished it down.
Yeah, if I was a Wisp main, I'd be over the moon.
Unbelievable. You know, I was curious watching that whole video. It's like, obviously he can't do it in the video, but he has to have tried it, right? Like, he has to know for sure.
Tried it like 2 weeks after the video.
That's more restraint than I expected, to be honest with you. Well, I think I'll go ahead and end the episode. I think it's a good note to end the episode on. Obviously, every incriminating thing you've said has to stay in on this one, though.
Can you at least delete the eugenics one?
Okay, I'll think about it.
Fuck it, leave the eugenics one. There's nothing I could be canceled for. I literally messaged you at, 12 a.m. saying I hate lesbians, and I'm fine.
Dude, the fact that people on Twitter thought that you were actually getting canceled for the clearest joke I have ever seen in my goddamn life. I am laughing. In the clip, I am showing it, and they still took it seriously.
Joke.
Unbelievable. All right, everyone, make sure to go to Twitter now that Sab can't defend himself and cancel him for good this time. Are you even active on Blue Sky now that you've been banished?
Yes, I am. I am active on Blue Sky.
Okay, I feel like canceling someone on Blue Sky doesn't have the same punch to it, but we can make do.
Blue Sky? Okay, everything that I say now you are not using.
All right, this is officially off the record. For editing me, do not include this part. Well, we've gotten a little off topic, but I think I should probably actually close the video down now. There's just going to be this large gap that people are not going to understand, but that's fine. Sabuuchi and I discussed plans to commit an act of terror or something. This is deep enough in the video, no one's going to see this. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out Sab's channel in the description. All of his shoutouts and stuff will be linked down there. Make sure to turn on notifications for Sab so you can see the next thing he shoves up his ass. And I'll see you all next time.
Goodbye.